Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the Bootcamp Blueprint, the place where personal trainers go to grow their bootcamp and social media. I'm super excited this week because the two guests I have I've been following for a long time, and two of the people that I look up to most when it comes to running bootcamps, because like a lot of people listening, I never knew how to run a bootcamp when starting off, right? I'd completed my fitness certs, I've got a degree in exercise physiology, I'd been working in gyms for a few years, but I had no idea how to run a boot camp. You know, I was running one, but I sucked and the numbers kept dropping and I was getting upset. And I thought, you know what? What can I do? How can I learn how to run a better boot camp? And I thought about it. I'm like, how have I learned how to do anything else? YouTube. You know, that's how I learned how to cook. It's how I learned how to change a car tire. I thought, you know, maybe I can learn how to run a boot camp via YouTube. So I searched on YouTube, you know, how to run a boot camp or something like that. And I stumbled across these two really good channels. One was Axfit and one was How to Sell Personal Training. And I studied these channels daily. Right? I probably spent more time studying these YouTube videos than I did my whole university degree. And I probably learned more from these YouTube channels too. And I implemented pretty much everything these two people do and teach. And my boot camp just grew and grew and grew. So I'm very excited to have both of those two people on the show today, because what's important is not only do they know how to run a boot camp, they know how to teach others, and they've both taught hundreds, if not thousands of trainers. So anyways, without further ado, I've got Danielle Chevalier from Axfit, and I've got Jonathan Hertilus from How to Sell Personal Training. Two of the more complicated names on YouTube as well. But thank you for being on the show, guys.
Yeah, we're excited.
Awesome. Now, what I want to do today, I've got a bit of a Q&A. So I've put the word out, and I've got about 15, 20 common questions that our listeners have asked. Now, we're going to wrap this up in about 45 minutes. That could be a challenge on its own, because I've spoken to both these people, and with what they know, they could go for days and days and days talking about boot camp. But I'll do my best to moderate it and get it down to 45 minutes. So let's quickly start. Bit of an introduction. We'll go through both of you. Maybe we'll start with you, Danny. 60 seconds or less. Tell everyone what you do, who you are, where you're from, what you do. 60 seconds or less.
All right, 60 seconds. So yeah, I'm Danielle Chevalier, and I'm in Ontario, Canada. I love skateboarding and paddleboarding. I got a couple kids, but my main thing, I just love kicking people's butts. It's just so much fun for me. I don't know if it's because my brother picked on me all my life, but it's my favorite thing to do, and I'm super passionate about it, and that's all I like talking about and doing, and that's why it's awesome to be here today.
Love it. Jonathan, 60 seconds or less. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Got my stopwatch. My name is Jonathan Hertilus. Essentially, I found my love for fitness in my early childhood, and it's something that I've just always wanted to do through sports. And I got the regular desk job for a long period of time. I was working in banking, and it just didn't vibe with me. It's not something that I saw myself doing 20 years down the line. I always found my way back to fitness, and I think it's the best industry to work in. So I continue to do it to this day. I run boot camps, and with the extra time that I have, I want to encourage as many trainers as possible that have that passion to go for it and be successful in the fitness industry. And, you know, a platform like this, I'm just happy to get the word out with Danny.
Awesome. Love it too. Now, I like to start all these podcasts off with a quote or mantra that inspires you or fires you up. Jonathan, have you got one for us?
I do. I'm not sure if I had mentioned it before, but I was talking to another trainer and we were discussing different mantras. Hers was better than mine. But my mantra, not everybody can roll with this, but for me, it's suffer hard, suffer fast. So like if there's anything that you got to do that's difficult or that's going to require, you know, a lot of your energy emotionally or otherwise, I'd rather just get it all done, learn as much as possible instead of dragging it out. And I think the biggest issue that a lot of trainers have is not being able to take action and then just going for it. So my thing is just suffer hard, suffer fast, go for it, make it work, and then the rest is smooth sailing.
Love it. I agree with that so much. It's the couple things. It's ripping the Band-Aid off, right? If there's something painful, just rip it off and get it done. And yeah, you don't want it dragging on. Just do it and either win or learn from it. So I love that. Danny, have you got one for us?
I got a bunch, but like, I don't want to use the same one I did last time in your podcast. So I really like mom spaghetti, and not everyone knows what that means, but it's kind of like that from that. Well, not kind of like, it's from the Eminem movie and his songs, and it's kind of like mom spaghetti, like just like go after it. Life isn't a practice run. You get one shot here, make it count. Take that fire inside of you and get after it. So I yell it in my class all the time. Some people know it, some people don't. Did you guys know it?
I'd heard of the Eminem song, but I had never heard it explained like that. So I love that. Jonathan, have you heard of that?
I didn't get it at first, but as soon as she started talking about the song, it made perfect sense. And
Yeah,
it's funny how we vibe the same way. We're like type A's.
Love it. I'm motivated already. So, hey, let's get into it. We might start with you, Danny. Out of everything fitness, and I know you do a few other things fitness as well, but as trainers, there's so much things we can do, right? We can do one-on-one personal training. We can do small group training. We can do boot camps. We can sell supplements. We can do underwear modeling. It's endless, right? What made you choose boot camp out of all those things?
Well, I started with personal training. I just found it kind of like not boring, but a little bit like, you got talking with the people too much. And then one time I just got thrown in a class and I was scared, and there was 30 of them. And I was just like, oh, I was covering someone at the gym. And within 3 minutes of teaching that class, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. There was so much fun, that competition, that like healthy competition, and just like that camaraderie and the fun and the family and the vibe. So like group training, I just never went back. It's fun. And I'm really good at like kind of making it funny, but hard, and calling people out, but being compassionate. So it's definitely a fine balance. And I feel like I've kind of mastered that. And yeah, so I could never go back to one-on-one. People ask me all the time, and I'm just like, no, sorry, I don't have time. I really just love the group training. What about you, Jonathan?
You know what? My story is very similar to yours. I started off as a personal trainer, and I think I was a personal trainer for about 7 or 8 years before I ever did group. And to be honest, I was scared to death to do group. Like if there was a group X class in my gym, I would find a reason why I couldn't do it. And then I think I just woke up one day and I started running the numbers, and I said to myself, all right, number one, it does get kind of boring with the wrong kind of client, because some clients just want to drag you into a conversation. They don't have that same work ethic. And so when I ran the numbers, I said, okay, I could train one person for $40 an hour, or I could train 20 people for $10 an hour. Wait a minute, what's going on? Like, this makes no sense. And I was scared to death my first class. My first class sucked. It wasn't any good. But I just stuck with it, and I just caught the fire, And same thing, people ask me for personal training all the time. I say I have friends that I can refer you over to. Not quite something that I like to do as much anymore. Although it can be rewarding, but I think group fitness is where it's at in terms of getting the best energy out of your clients and out of yourself. It just kind of homogenizes together, and everybody kind of lifts each other up. So I think group is where it's at.
Yeah, I agree with both of you for both those reasons there. It's just so much more fun, and the energy's there, and you can't go back, right? If you run that successful boot camp, nothing against one-on-one, that's got its place and it's great. But if you're one of those people that likes the group side of things, it's very hard to go back. Now, let's expand a little bit on that. So both of you sort of touched on how you started on the group side of things. Both of you run very successful boot camps. Maybe a bit of a 60-second or less again. We might start with you, Jonathan. How did it go from, a couple people down at the park to what you do now?
Well, I started off in the park, and then I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do it all year round, because in New Jersey, Northeast, we have like very different seasons. Once winter hits, like everything changes. And so I went indoors. I established a relationship with a gymnastics facility who, luckily for me, had a built-in client base. So it was really just a matter of winning over. I didn't have to win over every client. I just had to win over the owner and the people at the front desk. And so because with charm, charisma, luck, whatever you want to call it, they really gave me my first start. So my first class, I had 11 people. And I knew that once I had people in front of me, I was going to be able to grow it. So like I said, my first couple of classes sucked. And then as I got better, the word just kept spreading around. And it's just about servicing the client, making sure they're happy, making sure they see the results, keeping yourself fresh and motivated. And that in itself, even if your marketing isn't that great, can always bring you clients.
Love it. Danny, what about yourself? You've got a huge ass boot camp there that we see in the school gym. How did you build that?
Huge ass. Yeah, so it didn't happen overnight. And trainers ask me all the time, how did you get so many people? I've been doing it for 3 months or 6 months, or some say a year. And you know what? If you're thinking you're just going to make a ton of money, get a ton of people, and it's going to happen quickly like that, it doesn't. I mean, unless the timing's right. Like Jonathan said, there was clients in there, but for me, I was one of the first boot camps in our city. This was back in 2004. And they were like, what is this? And my stuff was intense, extreme fitness. So it's not for everybody. So it started with 2 people, 10 people. Sometimes no one would show, or one person. I was a single mom. We ate a lot of spaghetti back then and hoping someone would buy a 10-pack that day so that we could go and get groceries. And it was hard. And I almost gave up, but I just kept going and going. And then slowly it kind of became more like, okay, this is good. This is, and like he said, keeping it fresh and doing new things. And we work the elements. That's kind of my slogan, work the elements. So we do water and sand and hills and bush, and we hop fences and we hit the streets, and we go to parking garages. And so by doing all these different things, it took time, but it grew. And now like I'm just known as like that kick-ass trainer in the city. And some people are afraid to come, but I don't even want them here. I rather those hardcore, people that want what I give. So it took time, but you just have to be consistent and stick at it.
Agree. Now, where I'd like to go through from here, guys, a little bit different. And I actually didn't send this over in the question, so this could be fun. One thing I really like about both of you two is your actual instructing styles and what you're like as trainers. Because in my opinion, it's so much more than the workout, right? You could just give a monkey, hey, here's the workout, and get these people to do it and they can do it. There's all these other things that people have to do as trainers, and I think you two have mastered them. So I'd like to almost go through a perfect class. It might be even probably every class for you two, but if we can sort of go through the anatomy. So I'll break down little steps, and what I'm basically going to ask is little things you do. We'll start with here, actually. We'll start with you, Jonathan. What do you do? Say you've got a boot camp, whatever, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. What are the things you need to do before you even leave your place, before you even get to the facility there? What are some things you do while you're at home, either the night before or that morning before the boot camp gets started? Can you give us any tips you do, or do you just rock up and see how it goes?
It's kind of funny because I get up so early. Like my first alarm goes off at like 3:30 in the morning. And then my next one goes off at 4. So I'm in bed for like a half hour, just getting my mind right. And in the very beginning, I used to kind of go off the cuff, and then whatever workout I wanted to do, I kind of planned as I got there, and realized that I wasn't as efficient as I could be for myself in the way I wanted to run classes. So my workouts are usually written out weeks beforehand. So I now have the luxury, if you want to call it that, to be able to roll out of bed and then just look at my syllabus for the day and go like, all right, this is what we're going to do. But I remember being like really nervous about having the right energy. I used to take, I don't know if you guys have them in Canada and Australia, but the 5-hour energy, they're like B12 little shots. I used to drink that and try to get myself all gassed up. And now it's, as soon as the first person walks in the door, it's like an automatic switch that I'm on. And I could be dead tired, but the setup is done. I know what the workout's going to be, and it's just waiting for that first person. And all of a sudden, show's on. There's no turning back. You just got to go.
Love that. Danny, anything you do before you leave your house?
Yeah, so I always, I plan my workouts a couple days before, sometimes day before, night before, sometimes morning of. I teach one class in the morning. Sorry, there's a train going by. I don't know if you can hear it. I teach one class in the morning and one class at night. I just do 2 a day. So I'm really effective and efficient, and I have time in the day to kind of get other things done. But I visualize my workouts everywhere I go, and I tell trainers this because they're like, how do you come up with the shit you come up with? But if I'm in the shower, I look at the tiles on the shower wall and I visualize the flow of my people efficiently. If I'm laying in bed at night, I like look up at the ceiling, or if like I'm in the living room or in the car, like I'm always kind of building and thinking how I can flow the people so there's no dead time. So I'm always planning that the day before of my space. I train in a lot of different places. My crew likes it. So tonight we're at this park where there's a beach. So, all day I'm kind of like visualizing the beach and kind of getting into that vibe and how I'm going to flow them and what we're going to do. Am I going to get them in the water tonight? Am I not? What kind of mood am I in? And then when I'm driving there, I always like crank some music, get pumped up, and then show up and just like spread that energy and make them all like, because some people come to class and they're kind of like, they don't want to be there. Like we all do going to the gym. Sometimes it's hard. So you just kind of got to bust out of your car or into the class and make people like get that energy off you. So important.
Amazing. And I want to expand on that point from both people there, because this is a point I've realized with all successful people. Like if you read any book on a successful person, every single one of them visualizes, right? You say, what do they do? Hey, I visualize success, or I visualize what I'm going to do the next day or whatever. That's the same with trainers. If you listen to both Danny and Jonathan there, both of them basically visualize their whole class beforehand. It's not even so much, hey, I'll just write it down on a piece of paper. It's, hey, I'll write it down, but I'm going to think about it. Where do I stand? Where do the people stand? Where am I going to set up this equipment? So when you rock up to boot camp, it's not like, where am I going to put the kettlebell today? Where are we going to set up the TRX? Everything's there. You know what direction people are moving. So I think that's, for anyone listening, a very important point there. Now, let's go that little bit further. We've already planned it at home. Now, when we rock up at that actual session, all right, what happens there? Do we just rock up a couple minutes beforehand and get into it? Or, do we need to get there earlier? And do we need to set up? Do we need to get the ambience? What's going on there? Let's start with you, Danny. So
All
you
right,
just hit the session.
Yeah. So, I always try and get there early, 20 minutes early, half hour early. Whenever the gym, when I go to my indoor location, they love me. And like Jonathan mentioned, building that relationship with your front desk and the place you're renting from is number one, because then they just like love you and let you get away with things that they might not other people. So I always get in there early, get some music going a little low, and then there could be new people walking in. So for new trainers out there that are just getting started and, you want to get those new clients in or keep them, you have to make sure, like if you're talking to your regular crew and you see a new person walking in, don't sit there talking and just ignore them. Like, guys, see ya. Get over there as fast as you can. Welcome them, because they're scared. They're coming in. So I definitely make sure I work the room, talk to everybody, give a couple compliments out there, and then get after those new people, do a little goal setting. What do they want out of their workouts? And then have all the equipment set up. And usually the crew gets in and helps kind of set up. They like to do that, and I don't mind the help. But people that are there early, we do some stretches. And it's just, like I said, setting that vibe, that tone, getting them excited, talking about what we're going to get after, what we're going to do this week or next month. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. And like I visualize that workout the day before or a couple days before. And sometimes I write it down, but usually I find when I write it down, once I'm at the gym, I already know it in my head. So I don't even like look at the clipboard, and I don't like to be like a clipboard trainer where you're constantly looking at your clipboard, because it's kind of like, your head's down, and just if you visualize it and write it at home, you know it. And eventually you get better at that.
That makes me laugh, because I do the same. So I'll write down every single workout and I'll put it in my pocket. And that never comes out of my pocket when I run the class. I've written it down. I've visualized it so much. I put it in my pocket, so I've got it there, but I don't even need it because I visualized it that much. So I really like that. Jonathan, when you arrive to that session, what goes on there?
So for me, it's really the same thing in terms of the amount of time that you get in early. You really don't want to walk in at the same time as your clients. So you want to get there. I'm ready to go with about 15 or 20 minutes to spare. As far as like new people, I worry a lot because I'm so structured almost to a fault at times. I try to avoid getting new people that I don't see coming. So if somebody's going to refer a friend, I'll be like, just give me their information so I can maybe talk to them. But if in the instance where somebody new comes in, brand new, I had no idea that they were going to be there. A lot of times my regulars like to help. It's great when your clients want to become a part of, the leadership. They want to take a leadership role. So I always try to make sure to get as much information on a new person as possible, because then I can connect them with an existing person. What do you do? How old are you? Why are you here? Do you have any kids? Do you like dogs? Do you like sports? I'm trying to get as much information. For instance, one guy came in who normally comes to my 6:30 class. He came to my 5:30 class. He happens to be a dance instructor. One of my clients, Maria, danced for like the first, 15 or she danced for like 10 or 15 years. So instantly, because it was a partner workout, I put them together and I kind of slid in there, hey, Diego, how's ballroom dance class going? And then Maria's like, wait a minute, you dance? And he's like, yeah, I did. And then all of a sudden, it's about getting them into the group. And I'm always selling the workout. Even though I know what it's going to be, when I'm doing explanations, same thing as Danny, I'm talking about what we're going to do, how hard it's going to be, or how, what part is going to be the most fun. So people that don't like to sell, you're always selling. You're always talking about what you're doing and getting your people jazzed up. Because like Danny said, some people walk in tired. Some people walk in unmotivated, and it's up to you as a trainer to get them going.
Yeah, that's what probably the biggest thing I've taken away from both of you two from watching you train is the energy you bring to those sessions, especially early morning. And that actually changed me as a boot camp instructor. When I first started in the industry, I'd get to that 6 a.m. session and I'd be a little tired myself, and I'd sort of be a bit soft and ease people into it. But then I watched both of these two and I'm like, nah, it's our job as the trainer to motivate people when they walk in. You got to be there ready to go. So just a couple common threads just to summarize to the listeners. You'll notice that both of these two got in there really early. Like they're in there half an hour early, might spend 10 minutes to set up. So they've got 10, 15, 20 minutes, just kick them back, talking to people, making them feel part of the group. And also what you'll find is both of them have really good communities. So I just read this book, actually, I don't know if you two have read it, The Membership Economy. And it talks about how good your community is how much the other people help you out. And you can see how with both of these two trainers there, Danny's crew helps her set up her boot camp. That's how much they want to help her out. Same with Jonathan, the crew helps them interact with the newbies together, which is a sign of a really, really good community. And I love Jonathan's little trick there, how it all comes down to preparation again. He's prepared for a new person to come in, find some info so he can already hook them up with someone with similar interests. So as soon as that new person walks in, it's like, oh, well, these people are just like me. There's someone just like me. So I love that there. Let's move on to the next part. This part's going to be a little tricky, but we'll just talk generally. Now we're running the session. So we've done the prep. We've got there early. The ambience is right. The energy is right. Everyone's ready to go. We've probably done the warm up. Now we're going to get into the main session. What are just some general points that you think every trainer could benefit from? Because obviously a lot's going to depend on what you're doing in the session, who the trainer is, who your group is. But what are some generic points that you think every trainer should do during that main part of the session? Let's start with Danny.
Yeah, so definitely keeping the flow going. I'm a big fan of no dead time. We'll take quick breaks, often, but if they can tell you're trying to figure out what you're going to do next, and they're all standing there, they're losing their sweat, and they're like, okay, she doesn't know what she's doing, he's unorganized, I'm paying $1 a minute to be here, whatever it is, and I'm not getting my full workout. So you definitely want to, like we were saying, prepare, visualize, show up, know what you're going to do, and then keeping that flow going. I always do my workouts in phases. So I have my warm-up phase, we warm up, we do some laps, we do different stretches and kind of moves that we're going to do in class that day. And then we get into phase 2, which is my pre-ass kicker. It's kind of not the meat and potatoes of my workout. It's that phase in between, get their core really ready. It helps prevent injuries, kind of gets that heart rate going. And then why I do that is because usually the bigger part of my workout, the meat and potatoes, I need to explain a little bit more. So instead of them right away, you're spending 3 minutes to tell this thing, they're dying and they want that 3 minutes. So I'll be like, okay, I just killed them with that pre-ass kicker. Now they're kind of chilling and they're dying to have that workout. They're drinking some water, and that gives me 2-3 minutes that they actually need to recover to explain the main meat and potatoes of my workout. And if I find my pre-ass kicker phase wasn't enough, then I'll get them in a wall squat, or I'll make them do a plank or something while I explain the phase if I it's going to be kind of a long explanation. So that's really important. You want to keep it flowing and kind of read your crowd. Every workout's different. Every location I do it, it's different. You might have that more advanced crew or those new people that are doing things wrong. So you got to show them modifications. Sometimes I just kind of get that phase going, and then I'll go to them and then show them those moves. Because if you have, 35 regulars and then just one new person, you can't go through all those mods. They don't want to sit there and listen to that. So I'll just kind of get the workout going, and then I'll go with them and touch base with them every station they're at or what they're doing, or I'll just say, do what I'm doing. So those are kind of a couple key things. I could keep going, but I'll pass the mic.
Jonathan.
Well, in terms of during the workout, it's a couple things, and I'm sure Danny would agree. First goal of a trainer is do no harm. The Hippocratic Oath. You want to keep everybody safe. All right. So especially if you have a larger workout or a more complicated workout, you can't expect that all of your clients are going to be able to do every move correctly, even though it may come to us easily as trainers. But I have seen people completely butcher a squat. I've seen people butcher something as simple as bicep curls or a push-up. So the main goal is keeping your eyes peeled for who's not quite understanding what's going on, and making sure that nobody's in a position to hurt themselves. And then from there, my main goal is to never shut up. Like, I always have to be talking throughout the entire hour. If I'm not fixing something, I'm trying to get the most out of somebody in terms of their effort, because sometimes when you turn around, a client may try to like slack off, and I don't want that to happen. And then otherwise, it's just about getting more information, like establishing more of a relationship. You know, a client may have broached a topic, you know, before class, and because I had to get class started, we couldn't go too deep into it. But if there's a time where the form looks okay, the energy looks okay, I might need to touch base with the client and go like, hey, you know, that thing that you were dealing with, you know, is everything all right? How can we fix it? And then of course, as Danny said, you got to keep it flowing. Like, you can't really get confused because everybody's looking at you the whole time. So those three things, you know, doing no harm, never shutting up, and then keep things going, because they have a limited amount of time. You got to get them in and out, and they've got to enjoy every session.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially, do you agree with the no talking? Do you find that hard, Danny, to not to talk during the session, or you seem like the quiet type? So is that a tough one? I'm joking. No, I love that. And just to summarize for the listeners, the workout shouldn't be a riddle for the participants. Like, a lot of the time it's sort of hard enough for them to get in as it is. And we want to make it super creative as trainers, but we need to explain it in such a way that isn't a riddle for them and that they don't get bored as well. So that's what I like out of both those two things there. Now let's move on to the next stage. We've done the workout. So workout's over. Is there anything we need to do after the session? Can we just walk straight out of there and then, you know, that's it for the boot camp? Or do we hang around afterwards, or is there anything we do at home? Let's start with Jonathan.
Okay. After the workout, sometimes, well, I have a lot of clients that work in New York City, so some of them have to bolt out. But when I do have what I want, which is everybody being able to stay and experience everything, number one, I like to run socials outside of the boot camp. So I'm always hyping up socials to get people together. The more community you create, the better. There's always a health theme for the day. So I'm always reminding clients to take whatever they did, and then don't just, you know, your health didn't just stop at the workout. It now goes into your habits outside. So I remind them of the theme of the day. And then in between classes, so class is done, I've already broken down everything, doors are closed. I use mass text alerts, and it's just a way for me to keep contact with all of my clients. And if they have a specific question, they can respond. But I'm usually reminding them of the theme for the day, probably at around noon, after they've been out of my face for 5 hours. I'm calling out the people that weren't there to say, hey, where were you? I want to see your face. And then sometimes it's just like finding a good quote and then sending it their way just to let them know that I'm thinking about them. I actually, it's really, what's the word, narcissistic, but I want to be on my clients' minds 24 hours a day. I want them to hear my voice like all the time to make sure that they're not messing up, because they all have goals and I want to help them hit them.
Yeah, well, I want to expand on that because I love a couple of things. But Danny, what about you? So session's finished. Where do you go from there? Either at the session or at home still?
Yeah, so session ends. We kind of hang out a little bit. Some people, like Jonathan, they have to run, they got kids or whatever, but the ones that stick around, I always chat with. Or even like right when the session's done, I try to, before I'm like, hey guys, you can leave, I do kind of like a little talk about how the class went and what it did for them, and kind of makes them think, okay, now I'm leaving here, I'm not going to go home and eat crap. I'm just like, this is what you guys did, like, your metabolism now, you can burn calories for like 30 hours while you're sleeping. Don't go home and eat crap. So talk stuff like that. Definitely, touch people on the shoulder, tell them a compliment, make them feel good. And yeah, I like being in my clients' heads all the time too. So like posting on my social media, pictures from class. I always go home and post a picture or two, or I'll try and get a picture of someone, a client, like, and you want them looking good. No one wants to look funny online. And then doing a little client highlight. Those are like my best marketing tools, are client highlights, because you're highlighting someone and then they share it. And then people are like, oh, good job. And people get talking, oh, I should do that. Look at the results you've had. maybe you do a before and after, or maybe just them doing a cool move and saying how far they've come along. So I try and like post those up often. Definitely doing like text to people just saying, hey, you were awesome in there today. Even clients you've had for 10 years, because you can't just like forget about them. And then one thing I kind of add at the end of, maybe I try and do a class a week or at least like 1 or 2 a month, is, you know, they do it in yoga a lot. And with boot camp, sometimes we're just like hard, and then we're out, is I turn the lights off, get everyone to lay in the gym. And my clients want to do this every day, but they do and they don't. It wouldn't be as special. And we do a meditation. So I lay them down and I say, okay, guys, you just killed it. Their heart rates are going. I have a playlist ready for like, you know, that Zen-y kind of music. You got to find one so then you can click to it right away. You guys got to try this that are listening, because they'll love it, and have them lay down and kind of have a message ready, and then give them like 2 to 3 or 5 or 8 minutes. Sometimes they do longer to do nothing but lay there, and they feed off those words. You just kind of set the mood. Maybe it's goal setting. Maybe it's being thankful for the family and the love you have. Maybe it's just, you know, focusing on yourself and what you're grateful for, the hard work, appreciating what you've done, setting intentions for the week. Or maybe you tell them this time not to do anything or think about anything at all, just zone out and take those 3 minutes or 5 minutes to just have peaceful moments. And then when they get up and you turn that light on, they're just like, whoa, I had my heart rate going. I had a little meditation. They're getting in their car and they feel incredible. So definitely recommend that.
Amazing. I want to go to your boot camp just for that, Danny. Can I skip the main section and just do the end?
Yeah.
I want to expand on what both of you two said there, because I think there's some key points, both with the texting and the social media, because as boot camp instructors, we see people for 1 hour a day, if that, right? If someone trains every single day, okay, we see them for 1 hour a day. Most people, in my experience, will train more 2 or 3 or 4 times. So we're not seeing them that often. That's where I think that text message and the social media just keeps that person engaged for so much longer than just that 1 hour there. And that's what I found changed my boot camp, when I went from thinking it's just about the boot camp to thinking, hey, it's actually the stuff you do outside is actually more important. So if you're listening to this and you're not sending out regular text messages, do that. Watch your attention go through the roof. And same thing with the social media as well. So I love both those points there. Now, from there, just a quick little question. I'm not sure if I sent this one over either. I want to ask both of you two the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you running a boot camp. Let's start with Danny. Have you got one for us?
Well, I have lots, but no, not too many. But one that really sticks out for me, I have twin babies. They're 1 now, but when I was pregnant, I was huge. And besides like fainting in class a couple times, that was embarrassing, but not too bad. It happens. One time, I don't know if it was the stomach flu, it was, you know, in the winter, or if I was just morning sickness, they call it, but it's all day sickness. But I threw up. And when you have 2 huge babies in your belly and you throw up and you're like really doing that, like, and moms will know, it makes you have to pee. So I not only threw up, but I peed all down my pants and into my shoes. And it was really, really, really bad.
This is during a session? Is this most embarrassing thing in life or during a session?
It didn't happen in the session. I should correct that. It was, we were kind of all walking from our cars to go in the doors. There was a couple people there that saw it, but that's, to me, I was in front of my building. That's my, you know, my turf. And that was really like embarrassing to me. So maybe 4 people in class saw a couple in their cars, and then the community center. So I was, yeah, it wasn't fun.
Damn. All right. Well, hey, that was quite an interesting one. Jonathan, can you beat that?
I don't think I can beat that. I don't know. I was going back and forth between 2, and since Danny had the whole, you know, incontinence, throwing up thing, I'm going to keep my gastrointestinal story to the side. And essentially, when you're a trainer, especially in front of groups, I think it gets harder and harder to get embarrassed. So that's just something you got to deal with, because, you know, clients embarrass themselves and you got to be okay with it. So if you get embarrassed, that's okay too. So essentially, I was going over a drill, and it was very simple, something I've done a million times over, a lateral step over with a ladder. And it just so happened that I had a fair amount of equipment at the end of the ladder. Like, I had steps. So, you know, I wanted to make sure clients were doing it right. And I was talking about how people usually do it wrong. So let me demonstrate. And I'm doing the lateral step over, and then I think I'm killing it. And then all of a sudden, like, my foot gets caught into the ladder, and I go tumbling off to the side. And you know those steppers that you usually see in aerobics classes, like the levels are purple and like the top is green. I'm not sure if you have those. But yeah, it feels like that. And I go like falling into that. So all the steps fall all over me. And then I'm just like lying in a heap. And I have to think to myself, well, I can either fake it and act like I'm really hurt, or I can just get up and then act like, all right, guys, I meant to do that. That's what I don't want you to do. So I dusted my shoulders off and I said, all right, guys, let me demonstrate it again correctly. My knee was like throbbing because I hurt myself, but I just faked it and I got through it. And then I just, my clients will bring it up every so often, but I don't let it bother me.
Wow, that's good. But those are two of my actually worst nightmares, They're my two biggest nightmares. So I like those stories. I want to move on to a couple of things you guys have touched on, but I want to expand on it a little bit more. Excursions or things outside of the session. So is it just about the boot camp where it's like, all right, it's boot camp done, that's it? Or do you organize other activities, social activities, exercise sessions outside of the gymnasium? Jonathan, do you do them? And if so, what do you do?
I first started off only wanting to do fitness-related activities. So we would go off for runs, or we did like a mud run. We did a warrior dash. Spartan race is big here in the States. And it took a very, very long time for me to accept the idea of going to someplace like a barn. And clients were asking me for the longest time, we want to go out to this place. We want to go to that place. And I was so consumed with having to be the perfect pillar of nutrition. I was like, no, we're not going to go to a bar. It's not going to work out. And then one day I gave in, and I think people have to understand, or trainers have to understand, that not only are you a platform for fitness, you are like a social marker. People like being able to say that they belong to not just this boot camp, but this club of people, and the more I open myself up to just, and it doesn't have to be a bar, doing fun things. Like we're going to do hatchet throwing is now the rage over in the States, where you throw like an axe into a target. I don't get it, but they want to do it. So we're going to be doing that like next Friday. And, it's really just the more you can do, the more people you may draw in, because you might have a client that has a friend that doesn't want to do a mud run, but they want to meet you, and they'll go bowling or hatchet throwing. So it's pretty much everything. And if it's going to be like, if there's going to be alcohol, I let people know. I still like saying, hey, listen, you guys are going to drink, but I'm going to judge you, and I'm going to want to see your food journals the next day so that you don't keep this going. I'm not trying to create alcoholic. So I do my best to have a broad range of things that we do, because we have a broad range of interests.
Yeah, awesome. Danny, what about yourself? Do you do anything outside of the actual boot camp?
Yeah, we do, do a lot of pop-up classes, and I'll just put a little Google map, and then I'll do, especially with Instagram now, you can make these cool pictures so easy. I used to have to do these things on my computer. Now you just Google map, screenshot, go on Instagram, use the creative writing, put a little arrow, we're meeting here, it's a drop point. So it's like that extra class, especially for your monthly members. It's that bonus class that they're getting. So I do a ton of those in different spots. So I love it because our crew, they'll be like, oh, I was driving down this street and I saw the spot. We did those weird wall climbs off that alley porch, and so I do those once a week or every other week. And then I do a Christmas party, I do a summer party, and then we do things, not a ton. And then the things I do that are group oriented, sometimes too, you got to be careful, because if you go out and do too much as a group all the time, sometimes you can find the classes can get, your people in your groups can get too close, and then maybe someone's dating or not, and then drama can start. So you do got to be careful if you are doing a lot of activities. Maybe Jonathan, you haven't had this problem, but I've heard people in my town have issues with it. They got too close. A lot of CrossFit gyms, they do too much together, and then they end up, they date and things or mess around, whatever happens, and then people don't come. And so definitely doing those outside things are important, but you've got to plan the right activities and make sure you keep it pretty, just be careful, because it can get too sticky. And in the end, yes, you want to be friends with them, but they are your clients and you want to keep them coming. And sometimes if you do too much togetherness, then it can take from that freshness of the workout. I don't know. I'm partial. I'm kind of Gemini, so I think both ways are important. So I'm a bit of both.
I'll tell you my take on it is I like it as a predictable versus unpredictable. This is something Tony Robbins talks about a lot as well. I think at boot camp, it's cool to have something predictable where it's hey, we come at 6 a.m. every morning. but every now and then to throw something unpredictable in there. So it might be, hey, this week we're going bowling. Might be, hey, this week we're going to do that pop-up class. Hey, this week we're going to train at this location here. So I think as long as there's some sort of predictability and unpredictability, it works well. I also want to touch on, Danny, because you mentioned it earlier before we started recording it. It sounded so cool. Do you do any of that? You're a stand-up paddleboarder, I think you mentioned?
Yeah.
And is that just, you just go out there and do a stand-up paddleboard, or can you do workouts on there? Because you were telling me some cool stuff before.
Yeah, we run we run another business called Urban Surf. So we rent paddle boards, kayaks, canoes, and then I run fitness classes on these paddle boards. And actually this Friday we're doing a light up the night event, and I told some of my crew to come, and we dress in glowing things and glow sticks and glow paint, and then we hit the paddle boards in the dark. So it's at night in the moonlight. So there's a lot you can do on a paddleboard, but the paddleboard workouts are the best. And for any trainer out there in the world that has access to water, we started Urban Surf from Axfit. You gotta always be innovative, right? Because there's boot camps popping up every corner, and you have to keep adding different things. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get 6 paddleboards. I'll run these little like kind of renegade style. We pulled a trailer up to a pond or a creek or a river or a lake or wherever we could, jump on the boards and do workouts. You can do burpees and push-ups and paddling with just your arms, or kicking with just your feet, or doing squat paddling, or like a deadlift kind of motion. So it's pretty insane what you can do on a paddleboard. So I do a lot of those with my clients. And it's just different because you're out on the water. So it's a total different element. But anyone that has access to water, even if you have a couple boards or a paddleboard business, get there and do some workouts on the boards. I have a few YouTube channel or videos of workouts you can do on a board, but pretty much everything you do on land, you can do on a paddleboard.
I can't wait. I'm away this weekend. I'm down in Melbourne, but next weekend I'm back in Sydney. I can't wait. I'm just going to go to the bay, hire out a stand-up paddleboard and give it a crack. But hey guys, that's about all we've got time for today. I just want to, just to our listeners, what I strongly recommend is follow both these people on social media. So they've got, without fail, it's the 2 best YouTube channels for anyone that wants to grow their boot camp or their fitness business. So Jonathan's at How to Sell Personal Training. Danny is at Axfit, so I recommend following both those. I'll put these links in the description anyway. They've both also got courses for personal trainers as well. With Jonathan, you can just go to his website, dumbbellstodollars.com. Danny, where's the best place? Just your YouTube channel there? I know you're on Instagram as well as Axfit. If anyone's interested in doing any of your courses, where do they go?
Yeah, they're on axfit.com. There's I have over 50 training guides on there.
Awesome. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Danny's just Axfit everything. Axfit on YouTube, Axfit on Instagram, Axfit on the website. So yeah, I recommend following both of those 2. Just before we finish up, is there anything either of you 2 would like to add? Anything I forgot to ask, or anything you want to finish off with? Danny?
I would say, for trainers listening, every single workout, bring your game face. It's a production. I go in there feeling like this is a production. I'm putting on this orchestra. I'm going to have it flow. There's going to be good music. There's going to be no dead time. And like Jonathan said, always talking and singing. I dance, I cheer. I'm trying to be funny. I try to be tough. I try to compliment. So it's definitely a balance of everything, and you have to do it every single session. Leave your shit that's bothering you that day in your car or at home and go into that session and just kill it. That's how you'll retain your clients, keep getting new clients, and keep building yourself and your brand.
Love it. And I just got to add to that, we're in the entertainment business, right? Us running boot camps. Yeah, we're trainers, but really we're in the entertainment business. And you can be the best trainer in the world, but if you can't entertain those clients, they're going to go somewhere else. Jonathan, anything you want to finish up with?
It's actually a little bit of a question for Danny. So I'm going to kind of throw it back on her end, because I think we vibe on the same thing, where you mentioned earlier in this interview, you said the trainers ask you, how come my gym isn't blowing up in 3 months or 6 months? And I went through the same thing. I remember when I first started my boot camps, there were days where there was one person there, or there was nobody there, and I had a bunch of equipment. I was by myself and really doubted myself. And then also my first year, I remember being really poor, really eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day, not buying anything for myself. And it's really about consistency. And I remember telling myself, number 1, I'm not going to go back to personal training. And number 2, I'm just determined to stick with this until it works. And Danny, what was your mindset when it was rough? In the beginning, how did you keep going? You had the kids, you had the single mom thing. What kept you in the game?
The love for it, like it was fun, you know, when you're in your session, and even if it's with 2 people or 5, or sometimes there's 10, or the no people showing up, that wasn't fun. But, you know, just knowing how much I loved it. And the ones that did come said, you're made to do this, like stay at it, it's going to spread. And just, I don't know, just the love for doing it. And I knew, like any business and anything in life, it takes time. You have to keep at it. Nothing happens overnight. Anything that's good and successful, stuff that happens quick, like weight loss quick, or business, fast cash, it never lasts. So I knew that, you know, you just got to put that hard work in and keep going. And it was just like my family, and the love for making people cry and sweat. So that's just what kind of kept me going.
So you go, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, I just you really got to believe in yourself. Number one, if you don't love it, you're not going to stick around. I think that's a great litmus test, those first 6 months where you really doubt, is this going to grow? And if it stayed like this, would I want to do this anyway? I got similar encouragement from a client of mine, and I was just saying to her, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know if I'm going to get more clients if we just stuck. And she just said, stay at it. So it's about a mindset. Like, you got to be, as entertaining as you have to be, deep down you have to be really tough as a person to make any business work. And as much love is required, toughness is required as well. And if you stay on it, you'll be successful.
Yeah, and I'll add to that as well. So similar story, very similar with me, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners too. I want to add to it as well. So you've obviously got to love it. You got to also put in the work, and I believe learn from others too. So I was in that situation too, where my boot camp sucked, but I'm like, hey, I really love this. I think I can make a difference. I want this to be my career. How can I make it work? And that's how I discovered you two as well. You know, I was like, well, first things first, I'm going to jump on YouTube and just study every single successful bootcamp operator out there. So that's my add-on to that. So if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, that's cool. You know, I'm struggling with my bootcamp, but you know, it's just time. I know it's going to work better with time. Yes, with time, but also the effort and the education as well. And I would start with both of these two people's YouTube channels there, Axfit and How to Sell Personal Training. But anyways, I know both of you two have got to run, so I'm going to leave you to it. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
Awesome.